Hello, everyone. It is now 9:30. We will be able to start the webinar on InstanetForms. I hope you guys are doing great today. Thank you for being here this morning. Today, we're going to see the InstanetForms tool. Maybe some of you guys already know what it is. Maybe some of you guys want to know more about the tool. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you everything that you have in InstanetForms. So it's really on the tool. So it's everything that's like super technical about the tool. If ever you have some questions, because I have a lot of things to show you, I will ask you to ask me your questions at the end of the webinar. We have an hour and a half together today. I don't think that's too much because there are a lot of things to see. So I will really take the time to show you everything in InstanetForms. I know that the forms, sometimes you have legal questions about the forms. If ever you do have some legal questions, I would advise you to ask, to call the OSCEQ or to ask your agency executive officer, okay? Because today I will really show you how InstanetForms work. So I'm going to go right now into my dashboard. All right, so before we start, I'm going to show you two ways to access the tool, and I'm going to show you the toolkit of InstanetForms. So the first way to access your InstanetForms tool is via your favorites, if it's already there. So you see here in my favorites at the left, I have my InstanetForms here. If I hover over the tool, you see the three little dots, and I can either access the tool or access the toolkit, which I'm going to show you in a second. For those of you who didn't modify or edit your favorites, you just need to click here on Edit, and then you could either add some tools, you could remove some, you can move them around if you wanted to. And if ever I click on Add, I'm just going to quickly show you. Maybe you guys already know, but maybe some of you don't, so I just want to show you really quickly how to edit your favorites. So by clicking on Add, you see this window right here. And then you can check or uncheck the tools that you want to have in your favorites. Also, we have something that's kind of new still, and you can now add some external links in your favorites. So you can have your tools, and you can even have some other external links. So if you click here, you just need to put a title and then copy paste the website. So it could be really any website. It could be your own website. It could be your agency website. It can even be Facebook or Gmail if you want to have those websites in your favorites. All right, so that was just like a quick parenthesis just to let you know that you can do that. So I'm just going to close right here. So either you access InstanetForms in your favorites or click on the tools page. So if I click on tools right here, I have all of the Centris tools, and then I'm just going to have to go down and look at InstanetForms right here. So it's in your management and forms category. So once again, you have access the tool or you have the toolkit, which I'm going to show you. And every Centris tool has their own, they all have their own toolkits. All right. So on the toolkit pages, you're going to find the next webinar. So if ever you want to take it again, that's where you can register. Or you have the tutorials. So if ever there's something you want to go back on, you want to see again, or something wasn't clear, or you have questions and it's super late at night and the help desk isn't open, you can go watch the tutorial. So they're short clips on different functions on InstanetForm. All right, so that's what we're going to see today. But if ever you want to go back and watch them again, that's where they are. All right, so I'm going to start right now, and we're going to click on Access Tool to open it. And we're going to go through everything that you have. If ever you guys want to try at the same time as me, you can do so. You can open up your InstanetForms if you have two screens, let's say, if you want to follow what I'm saying and do the same thing in your tool, you can do so. But if not, we're going to go step by step in the tool. So I'm going to show you everything that you have. So right now, by default, it opens up the agency dashboard. I'm going to switch here to broker view because that's what you guys will see, but it's basically the same thing. Okay, it depends if you're a broker or an agency executive officer. So, but by default, you will have your broker dashboard. All right. So what you see here are your widgets. So the widgets that you decided to put in your dashboard. if you want to modify that, so you see now by default, I have my transactions. I can create one. I can open up Authenticine. I can get started with the contacts, and I have all the forms right here. If I want to change up this dashboard, what you need to do is click on the lock right here. So when you lock or unlock it, that's where you can choose what widgets you want to put on your dashboard. So you have all of them right here. So you can just like take one. Let's say you want the checklist, and you're going to put it right here. Okay. So see, now I've added the checklist widget, so I can move them around. I can do whatever I want. So it's really up to you. It is your dashboard. You make it the way you're going to use it the most. So all of them, all of your widgets are right here in the little lock icon. So when you're done, just click back on the lock, and then your dashboard will be modified. All right, so it really depends on what you want to see. It's up to you. It's your tool, so you use it as you want. All right, then if I go to the left, you see here your menu. You have all of the icons, but if you want to expand the menu, you just click on the burger button that we call it, or like the 3 lines right here. So if I click on it, you're going to see here what you can access. All right, so you have transaction desk, Authenticine, InstanetForms, etc. So I'm going to show you all of that today. But first, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in transaction desk. So this is where all of your transactions are. So maybe you've created some already, maybe not. There are 2 ways to create a transaction in transaction desk. The first one is to click on the add button that you see here. And you're going to see that in InstanetForms, all the layout and the buttons, they're all pretty much the same. So you're going to be able to recognize the actions that you can do with either the forms or the transactions or the signings, whatever you need. It's basically always going to be the same thing. So right now it's laid out as a list. If you click here on the grid, you could see it as a grid. If you want to go back, you click here. So before I'm going to show you the whole process on how to add a transaction in transaction desk directly, there's another way to do so. Maybe some of you guys already did it, but it's directly in Matrix. So if I open Matrix, I don't want to confuse you guys. I just want to show you that quickly because it's still a cool way to create a transaction. So what you do when you're in Matrix, you just like do a search like you would usually do. And then I'm just going to select anything. Like I'm going to take Montreal, and I want a bungalow in Montreal. And then I just click on my results. I just want to show you quickly. And then if I choose, let's say I'm going to go, because it has to be active for more than 24 hours. All right, your listing in Matrix. So if I click, let's say on this one, if I want to create a transaction directly from Matrix, you see here at the top on the right, your last icon, it looks like a form with an arrow, and it says Access InstanetForm. And then it would open InstanetForm, well, transaction desk, and you could create your transaction right away. All right, so you can see here, yeah, you can name it. You could put a template, a type. You can see here the data is already imported from Centris. Why? Because the listing is already active. It already has a number. And I'm going to show you also when we create it from scratch in Transaction Desk how to import the data. And then you can add yourself as either the listing broker, the selling broker, neither or both. All right, so this is how you create your transaction directly from Matrix. So I'm just going to close it because we're not going to do that today. I'm going to close this too, and I'm going to come back in my transaction desk. Also, I know that I may go a bit quickly. I don't want to go too fast, but we have so many things to see today. But if ever there's anything, let me know. I'm going to try to come back and show you again. If not, I'm going to come back at the end and show you again. All right. So first thing we do, we're going to create a transaction. So pretty easy. We just click on the add button right here that you see. So create a transaction. And it's going to open up a window right here. So we can call it transaction training and the date that we are today, so 2020. There you go. I would advise you to create it, well, to name it as precisely as you can. Why? Because when you have a lot, it's easier to find, all right? Because when I'm going to close this window and we're going to come back, you see maybe like in the back of that window that I'm filling out now, you see that most of my transactions, they have the addresses, like the address of the listings. And when you create it from Matrix, it's gonna name itself automatically by the address of the listing. But if you want to change it and you want to put your client's name or anything else, you can do so, of course. And it's always better to have more information than not, because if you have to go back and look for it, and it's only a code or something, well, maybe you're not going to find what you're looking for. All right. So you have to name it. Absolutely. It's the only mandatory field. Then you have the template. The template actually is, I'm going to show you how to do it a bit later, but the template is something that you can create in InstanetForms. If ever you do the same types of transaction all the time, well, you can create yourself a template with all the same forms, the contact info if you want to, and everything, your checklist, everything I'm going to show you. You could create yourself a template or templates, and then you could apply it to the transaction. All right. But today we're not going to apply it because I really want to show you how it all starts. So you could apply a template. Then you can choose a type. So either none, or you can say that it's a commercial purchase or residential purchase. Okay. Then you can import the data. So to import the data, you need the centrist number. So if ever you had it, you could just copy paste it. And what that would do is that all of the information that is linked to that listing will automatically import itself in your transaction. So you wouldn't have to like fill in everything from scratch. You could just import it from Centris, all right? And then you can add yourself, like we just saw, as either listing broker, selling broker, both, or neither. If you want to check the use wizard, if ever it's your first time creating a transaction, what the wizard does is that you're going to see when I click on create, it's going to bring you into the transaction. And when you use the wizard, it's going to bring you automatically to each section that you have to fill in. All right. If ever you're already used to it, just simply uncheck the use wizard box, and then you're going to be able to do what you want to do in the order that you want to do it. All right. So this is basically, that's pretty easy. So we're going to click create. And see here on the right, you're always going to have some pop-ups about like what was just done. Okay, so if you want to make sure that everything's okay, if it's blue or green, then it means it worked. If it's red or something happens, it's going to tell you also. So here you have your transaction. All right, so it brings you directly in the details, and this is where you would have to fill in everything if ever you didn't import your data from Centris. Okay, so you can change this transaction, the transaction type, put in the address, the property information, everything. All right, so right now we are in the details section of your transaction. If you click here on the little menu and you want to import data now, you can do so if ever you didn't do it in the first window that we saw. You're not sure, you didn't have the Centris number right away, but you wanted to import the data from Centris. What you could do is click import data, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say data, I think. And then just put in the Centris number. So we can do it today. If ever I go on centris.ca, and I'm just going to go and select any Centris number just to show you. So we said it was a residential purchase. So let's say we want to buy this Plex right here. And I want the Centris number. Where is it? It's always like super small somewhere. Give me a second. Right here. All right. Okay. So I'm just going to copy paste this number. I'm going to go back into my transaction here. I'm going to click on the menu. I'm going to import the data. And here, I'm going to copy paste it, automatically populate the forms. I could do that because the information that we have on the listing on centris.ca, it could help you populate the form. So it's the same info that you have in Matrix, okay, but you don't have to, it's as you wish. So if I click import, I just want to show you what it does. So here you see data imported, and now see the photo is there, the address is there, everything's there. So all of the info that we have on centris.ca will now be imported in your transaction. All right. So this was for the details. If I go into my dashboard, so this is my transaction dashboard. Once again, like I said, for your first dashboard, when you access InstanetForms, I told you you could change up the widgets. You can do the same thing right here in your transaction dashboard. So once again, you click on the lock, and you're going to be able to add widgets or remove some or move them around if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm just going to close this. So this is your dashboard. You can do whatever you want with it. This is where you could add some forms if you wanted to, or you have other ways to add forms. But this is your dashboard. But maybe you guys are already familiar with your dashboard. So we saw the dashboard, we saw the details. If I click on contacts right here, these are the contacts you see here. It was already imported because they are the contact related to the listing, okay, because we imported the data. If ever you wanted to add a contact, you just click here on add, and it's either create a new transaction contact, add existing contact, or add yourself. So if you want to create from scratch a new contact, you create here, and then you would have to fill in all the fields that are mandatory. So you have the contact name, the first name, the last name. You can put the email. You can put information about the companies. You need to select the type of contacts that they are. Then that's for your general tab. Then you have your form tab, and they're going to ask you for the contact information in French and in English. Why? Because depending on the form that you will use, whether it's in French or in English, they will your contact information will be updated, and you're going to be able to put in your contact info in the right language. Okay, and finally their address. So that's it for your contact if you want to create it from scratch. I'm going to close this right here. If I click again on add, just to show you, add existing contacts, this is the contacts that you have here. If you follow my my mouse, you're going to see here at the complete left, you have in your menu, you have contacts. So when you click add existing contact, you're going to have to choose a contact that you've already created in InstanetForms, because there are many ways to add your contacts. You can either like add it in your transaction, or you can just go in contacts in your menu and add your different contacts. So they would already be there if you click on add existing contact. And finally, you can add yourself. So this is your information that it's in Sinbad, all right? So it's already all there. So you can just add yourself, and all your info will be automatically put in, okay? So these are for contacts. Once again, you're gonna see that every time you have some list like this in InstanetForms, you always have the round here, which means select or deselect. And then you're always going to have the menu with the three little dots. So right here, let's say for the contacts, you can either edit it, activate the client dashboard, or delete the contact. Okay. Then if I continue in my right menu right here, you can click on forms. And this is where you could add a form. Okay. So hold on a second. Sorry about that. All right, so this is where you can add the forms. But like we saw, if you remember on your dashboard, in your transaction dashboard, there was already also a box of the forms box, and you could add the forms from there too, okay? In a while, I'm gonna show you how to create a form directly from InstanetForms, because now keep in mind that we're in Transaction Desk, and I'm showing you the whole tool. So if ever I want to add a form, so let's say we're going to add a form right now because I want to show you I want to show you what you can do with the forms. All right, so I'm going to click add. And then if I go back here, you have all the forms. Okay, so you have the mandatory forms in French or in English, recommended, everything. If ever you're not sure in which file they are, the forms that you're looking for, I would advise you to search. Okay, so if you click in your search bar and I want to add, let's say, a promise to purchase, okay, I can just start to type in promise, and then all the forms with promise in their name will pop up. So right here, see, promise to purchase. So if I want that, I can just select it and see here in my little basket, I have one new form. Okay, so I have my promise to purchase. You could add more than one form at a time, of course, but if you want to just edit them like one at a time, you can just one at a time too. Add one at a time too. It's really up to you. Okay, but if you wanted to add more, you could select as many forms as you wanted. So now I've added my promise to purchase. I'm going to click on add. And see here, now I have my forms. It's not finalized already. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that. But I just want to finish up the menu right here before going into the forms. Okay, so I've added my forms, my form here, my promise to purchase. If I keep going on my menu, I have the signings right here. So if you guys use Authenticine, you could right away start a signing directly from your transaction. If ever you're not familiar with Authenticine, we have a lot of webinars on that I can show you how to use the tool. You're going to see it's pretty easy, and it's already linked to InstanetForms. So like everything is in everything, you're going to see if you follow the other webinars. But this is where you could start assigning directly in your transaction. Okay, you have the documents. So these are the documents that the fact that cover sheet is by default in every transaction, but if you wanted to add more documents, you could click on add, and you could either add a new document or add a new folder. So if you had a lot of documents that you wanted to add, and it could be like external documents, or it could be documents from Dockbox that comes with InstanetForms and Authenticine. You could do so. You can either add the new document. So if I click here, you can drag and drop your files, email upload them. You can download them from a third party. You can copy them from your Dockbox, which is like the cloud solution that's with InstanetForms and Authenticine. And finally, you can upload them from your computer. Okay, so if you have documents that, I don't know, your client sent you, or important documents that you want to put in your transaction file, you can do so right there. So I'm just going to click close. And so, like I said, you can either create another fax back cover sheet, you can add a document like I just showed you, and the folder is if ever you want to file the different documents in different folders. So you can do that too. It's really up to you. It's really how you work and how you want to have it in your transaction file. So these are for your documents. You have the checklist. Checklist is something else that I'm going to show you. You can create checklists. So if I click on add, so you can either add a checklist item or add a checklist. I'm going to show you a bit further down how to create a checklist. You could import one that you've created with all of your items, or you can simply add an item, and that can be basically anything you want. All right, so it can be a task, it can include a document, and you need the name. All right, so if it's a task, let's say your first thing is contact the seller. All right, so that could be your first task. Then you have that, so that's general. You can decide if it includes a document or not, and if it's mandatory or not. Okay, if you click on access, you can access permissions. So it depends on your contacts, so you can decide who has access to it or not. Then you can click on review. I don't know why it's not clickable right now. I'm just going to go click on task. Okay, and then you have your task information. You can put a due date if you wanted to. So either, so you just need to select related to a transaction date. And finally, you can assign it to some people that you work with. All right. So either your contact or you can add some more, and you can decide to notify them if you wanted to. So if I click on save, see here, I have in my checklist, I have this task that I need to do. I don't have a date and it's not mandatory, but I could do so. You see here the little time thing. I don't remember the word in English. I'm so sorry. So the sablier in French. So now you see that it's not completed, but if ever it was completed, you would just have to click on it, and then you have your little flag to say that it was completed. So these are your checklists. So you can either add some items independently, or you can create a whole checklist if ever you do all the same steps for every transaction all the time. I'm going to show you how to create that checklist, and then you could just, when you click the plus button, you can add the checklist, and all of the tasks that you put in your checklist would already be there. So you would know what to do. All right. And see here, now I'm in the list mode, but you could have the calendar view too. I didn't put a date, but if I had put a date and I had a lot of different dates, I could see it as a calendar. So instead of just seeing a list like this, you could actually have a calendar right here, and you would see at what date you need to do what task on your checklist. Okay. So this is for the checklist. And you have the tasks too. All right. So it's the same, it's kind of the same thing. It's tasks that are not related to your checklist. It's other tasks, but it's kind of the same. All right. So if you want to create a task, you can just name it. You can give it a description, give it a due date, and then you can decide with who you want to share that. So it could be another broker, or it could be a team, a sharing team that you've created, which I'm going to show you how to do a bit later too. So I could share it now. Right now, I only have it myself. So I could share it with myself, or if you have other brokers or colleagues or teammates or teams that you're working with, you could share the tasks with them. So if ever you're leaving on vacation and you want them to complete the tasks for you, you can do so, of course, by clicking the person right there, the broker, to share it with. You can finally notify them. Okay, so via email, notify owner of the status change, and notify all assigned users to this task. So you could either select or deselect depending on what you want to do. Okay, so I'm just going to close I'm going to close this one here. And finally, you have your history. So history is everything that happened in your transaction. So if ever you're not sure that you've created a form or anything, or you have questions on who did what, if ever you're working as teams, you can always go in your history and you see everything that happened in that transaction. So you see here that we've created it this morning together, and everything I did with you guys right now, it's all in the history. All right. So I'm just going to go back into my dashboard. So this is what you can do in your transaction file, in your transaction dashboard. Is everything good for now? Do you guys, am I going too fast? Do you guys have any questions about this this function, the transaction dashboard, sorry. If not, I'm going to keep going. I just want to make sure that everything's good for all of you guys. All right, so I hope it's because like it's super clear that you guys don't have any questions. But you see, it's pretty intuitive though. Like if you try it out a couple of times, you're gonna be super good, super quick with InstanetForms. And plus, if you have any questions, you can always call us. Okay, so before I keep going on my left menu, I just want to show you in your transaction here at the top, you have the name. Okay, you can change here the status if you wanted to. Here you can email upload if you want to upload things from your email. If ever, that means that if ever you receive a document, let's say from your client, and instead of downloading it as a PDF or a Word document or anything, and then re-uploading it in your transaction, by clicking email upload, what it does is that it's going to give you a unique email address. okay? And you're going to be able to forward your email to that specific email address that was given to you by InstanetForms. And then the documents that are in your email that you receive from your client will be automatically uploaded in your transaction. All right, so this is what it means for the email upload. You have the same thing in Authenticine too, and we saw it, I think, in the documents. All right, when we add the documents, you could upload it from the email. Then you have the contact card. So if you want to download the contacts that you have here, you could do so. And finally, the menu right here. I'm just going to go through that menu quickly, but you could delete the transaction. You could add a team that you want to share it with. So if ever you've created, you have to create your team previously for that. But then you could decide that you want to share this particular transaction to the team that you're going to choose. Then you have your notes if you want to have some notes for your transaction. You can duplicate it. So if you want to have like basically the same thing, like you're super happy about your transaction, all the forms that you need are there, the documents, everything, you could duplicate it and then modify the duplicata if you wanted to. You could apply the template. So like I said before, if ever you've created a template from the menu, the other menu I'm going to show you, you could apply the template. So that means that all the forms in your template and all the documents, all the checklists, it could apply itself automatically to your transaction, okay? You could also create the template from this one. So let's say that the transaction that you've created is the perfect transaction file. You want all of your transaction files to be like that. You can create a template directly from it, okay? You can import the data like I showed you. So it's the centrist number. You can archive it if ever you don't want to use it anymore, but you don't want to delete it. You just need to archive it. And finally, you can change the transaction status, okay? So this is everything that you could do in your transaction desk. So if I recapitulate, I don't know if I can say that in English, but for now, what we saw is how to create a transaction in Transaction Desk. So directly from Transaction Desk, or you can do so from Matrix, but the listing has to be active for more than 24 hours in Matrix in order for it to work, okay? So there you go. That was for Transaction Desk. Then you have Authenticine. So maybe you guys already know what Authenticine is. So it's it's how to electronically sign documents. And it's already linked to InstanetForms. It's not automatically there. You have to subscribe to Authenticine. It's $69 per year, and you have unlimited signings that you can do. So if you remember in your transaction dashboard that we just saw, on the right menu, you had the signings option. So you could either start a signing from a transaction, or you can start a whole signing directly from Authenticine by clicking add here. But this is another webinar. I just wanted to show you guys that you have it here. If ever you guys don't use Authenticine and you use, I don't know, EasySign or next one, I'm going to be able to show you how to link those tools in InstanetForms, okay? Because I know it's not all of you use, I wish all of you guys used Authenticine, but if ever you don't, I'm going to show you how to link the other tools in InstanetForms, okay? Then we have InstanetForms, and this is, I'm just going to go back to home. This is where you find the forms that you're going to need for your transactions. So you saw before that I've added a form directly in my transaction, which I'm going to go back to in a second. But here you can just start from InstanetForms and create a form. So you have your individual forms. So like we saw before, the mandatory forms, recommended, everything, okay? Then you have your transaction forms, and your transaction forms are all the forms that are linked to the transaction files that you created, all right? So today, see here, and before I do that, I'm gonna go back to my home to show you that if you don't wanna link the form to a transaction, it's possible. Like let's say you wanna print it out and you want to have it on paper to have your client sign it on the paper, you can do that too. So if I open my recommended forms and I take, I don't know, I want to promise to purchase. Okay, where are they? Promise to purchase. So if I click here, I can either create a new form and start a new transaction, or I can create a new form and add to an existing transaction. Okay, so I'm just going to close right here. And what I want to show you is that if you want it like in PDF or on paper, you just go in your menu, because like I said, it's always the same layout. You always are going to have your three little dots menu right here. So you can either preview it, make a new one, or download it or print it. Okay, so if you download it as a PDF, you won't be able to modify it. It won't be a draft anymore. It's going to be like the whole form, and then you can have it signed. So if I click on download, I just want to show you. And then see here, it's going to download as a PDF. And if I open it, I'm going to have my form here, and you're going to be able to print it out. All right. So this is how to print your form. I just want to see the questions I have now. It's a really good question. Can I transfer a transaction already created with another? So no, basically. I would have to make sure, but if you can, what you can do actually in your new transaction, if you want to have forms that were already in another transaction, that's you can do that. You can add a form like we saw. If I go back here, if I go back to my home, you have your transaction forms. Okay, so you could choose a form that was already in a transaction, and you can add it to your new transaction. But you cannot like mash up two transaction files. Okay, I don't know if that's clear, but you could import some things from other transactions, mostly forms. I think only forms, but you cannot like just create a fusion of two transaction files. Okay, so now we're going to go in a form. All right, so if I go back to my home, and I'm going to actually, you know what, let's do it from InstanetForms, because I showed you guys how to add a form in your transaction, but we're going to do it directly from InstanetForms. So if I click on mandatory forms, let's say, and I want to add, I don't know, we're going to add, let's say, another promise to purchase. So if I click on it, I could either start a new transaction, like I said, or I can add to an existing transaction. So if I do that, I'm going to click here. And then see here, we're going to select the transaction that you want to import it to. Okay. So we're going to take the one that we've created this morning, and then we're going to select open form, because I want the form to open right away so we can go through it together. So I'm going to click save. So like you see, like what's cool or can be confusing, but it's not really that confusing, is that you can, in InstanetForms and Authenticine and Transaction Desk, you have a lot of ways to create either a transaction or a form. So it can, you can start from scratch, or you can do it directly in the transaction. It really depends on how you work and what works best for you. All right. So I know it kind of seems maybe a little confusing, but it's really not. Okay. Just today I have so much to show you, and I just want you guys to know all the ways that you can do the things that you can do in InstanetForms. But like I said, the best thing is to try it out yourself, because there are no incidents. Like you can just create a transaction, import your forms, or just create forms and try them out without linking them to a listing necessarily. Okay, so it looks like a lot, but it's really not that complicated. You really need to use it like a couple of times, and then you're going to be super good at it. So what we have here is our forms. So the promise to purchase. Okay, so you have all the pages here, and you see here that it's a draft. We saw in the the one that I downloaded, that it wasn't a draft. Why? Because we cannot modify it. It's like you're going to print it out and it's done. But this one here, you can change it if you want to. You can modify it. So first options that you have is the file menu here. So you either click new if you want to have a new form. You can open the form. You can save it. So either save it in your Instanet or save as PDF if you want to have a PDF, and then the draft will leave. You can copy it. And copy, what that can do for you is that if ever you finalized the document, okay, the form, but you realize that you made a mistake and it's not signed yet, okay, what you do is you go back into the form like this, you copy it, and what it's going to do is that it's going to copy your document with all of the information that you've put in, and then you can and it's still going to be like a draft, okay, it won't be finalized, so you can go and add the corrections that you want to add, and then you can finalize it again, and then use that copy, that finalized copy of your form to have it signed or to send to your client. Okay, so this is why the copy button exists. You have erase. Erase here. Well, you can erase all pages, you can erase some page, and you can clear the dashes, which I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, the dashes, what it means. So you can also remove it from your transaction file directly from there, or you can go back into your transaction, click on the forms, and then select it and delete it if you wanted to. If you want to add dashes, what it's going to do, it's look, because here you see that we can actually write some, like everything, everywhere that you can put some, oh, this is my contact info, so I'm just going to take this out. Sorry, that's Chrome for you. So you could go and put in all of the information that you want to, that you need to put in, all right? So everything you need to do, and then let's say everything's done and you don't want your client to be able to modify it, you just need to click on file, and then you click on add dashes, and everywhere where you didn't write in any information, you see here there are some dashes. Okay, so this is what it means. So if you want to erase the dashes, you click here, erase, and clear dashes. All right. You could print it. You can send it either via email, either via fax, if you guys still use the fax. You can send it in your Dockbox, which is your cloud solution that you have directly in InstanetForms. And you can also markup in Dockbox. So if ever you want to highlight some things, you want to put some squares on it, and you want to really highlight some sections, you could do so in Dockbox. But that's unfortunately another webinar if ever you want to know how to use it. Okay. And finally, you can finalize it. Yeah. And or exit it. You can change the fonts right here, okay? You can add some clauses. So if I click on clause, I'm gonna just go where I can add a clause. Hold on a second. So here I could add a clause. And you could either have some personal clauses that you can write yourself. I'm going to show you how to do that. So you can have your personal clauses. You can have your office clauses, so the clauses that your office created, or you have the system clauses. So if I go in English, and I don't know, I have the brokerage contract, and I could select here the clause that I need. All right, so you have all the ones that are automatically created by the system, or you have the ones that are created by your agency or your office, and you have the ones that you can do yourself. Okay, so if ever you had some on the personal clause on the COVID-19, let's say, and you wanted to put it in your contract, maybe not your promise to purchase, but your brokerage contract, you could do so. Okay, so this is where you could add your clause. So if ever I just choose one just to show you, doesn't need to make sense, but let's say here, promise to purchase. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to click OK, and see here, the clause will automatically be filled in. Okay. So this is for the clause. Then you have your transaction forms. If you want to open up your other transaction forms, you have the possibility to skip pages. Here's the help. It's help from InstanetForms. But if ever you have any questions, I would tell you to call the help desk, as we know you guys and we know how we can help you. Because Instanet it's powered by a company called Lone Wolf Technologies, and it's a partner of Centris. We don't like own InstanetForms completely. We're working with them. So if ever you have really questions for you guys, call us if ever there's anything. So let's say that my form is done. Okay, I think I showed you guys everything that you can do. So what you need to do when it's done, you need to click on Finalize. And see here, it tells me my form is successfully finalized. So we don't have the draft anymore. Okay. So if I go back, I just want to show you, if I go back into my transaction that we've created today, okay, so here, so you have the forms here. If I click on forms, see, this morning at 9:52, I've added right here the promise to purchase, which is not finalized. So this one is still a draft, okay? And I have the number of the promise to purchase. But now the one that we've created from InstanetForms and that we've linked to that transaction and that we finalized, we have the little F right here in red. So you can know right away when you click on your right menu in Forms, you're going to be able to see what form is finalized or not. All right. So this is for the forms. So is everything still okay with you? Do you want me to go back on something? Because I still have a lot to show you. But mostly you can go and try. It's pretty easy. You see that it's always add, and then you look for the forms that you want to add, and then you can modify it as much as you want. Okay. So this was for InstanetForms because I still have like the setup right here to show you, and we have a lot of things to see. But I just want to make sure that everything is clear. Like I don't want to just like blurt out information for an hour and a half and not having you guys understand any of it. So feel free to write me a question if anything, but I hope that it's still clear. But like you saw, it's pretty much always the same thing, kind of. It's always the same layout, it's always the same buttons. So you get the concept. So, okay, so we saw transaction desk, Authenticine, InstanetForms, we just saw. So when you need your forms, it's InstanetForms. Then you have the Dockbox. Dockbox, like I said, it's basically a solution, like an integrated cloud solution that you have with all of the documents that you want to put in there. So it can be any documents. It's basically like a Google Drive for some of you who use it, or like a Dropbox, sorry. So you have your folders. You can add some folders if ever you go inbox. Inbox is what you receive in your email. You have your folders right here. Okay, so you can even create folders, like personal folders if you wanted to, and then upload some documents in there. You have your shared documents. Right now I don't have any, but if ever, like we saw before, like we could add some documents in the transaction and we could decide to share it with another broker, called a colleague broker or a team. And you have your transaction folder. So all of the documents that are in each of your transactions are right there. Okay, so it's basically, it's a tool that helps you file your documents and all of the documents that are related to your transactions. Okay, it's really not more complicated than that. You have your task manager. Okay, so these are the tasks you saw before. We could create tasks directly in your transaction, but you could create them right here. Okay, so if you want to add a task, it's going to be the same thing. Okay, it's the same window that we saw before. So you give it a name, you put in the description, the due date, and with who you're going to share it. Okay, so if I close it here, so if you want a task manager, what it does is that instead of like going through every transaction that you have and look at every task that you need to do in every transaction, just open up your task manager like we just saw here. So the task manager and all of the tasks that you need to do for all the different transactions will be there. Okay, and right now, see, I was telling you about the calendar view. You can have it like this. Like right now, we don't see any because I think they're all done, but you could see the tasks in your calendar. So if I go back to the list right here, so you see that I have 2 that I need to do and 2 that are completed. All right, so this is your task manager. So these are all the tasks that you have related to all the different transactions if you want to see them at the same time. Agency tools, I'm not going to go over that because these are for agency executive officers. Instanet fax, I'm not going to show you either because I don't think that well, most people don't use it, so we don't show it. You have your contacts right here. So see here, I only have 1 contact. So when we saw before at the beginning that you can add an existing contact in your transaction file, this is where you would add your contacts. All right, so once again, you click add. So basically the add button is your best friend in InstanetForms. It's always going to be that button that you're going to use. And like we saw before, it's the same contact sheet. So with the mandatory fields that you need to put in, and you can decide if the ownership of the contact is a personal contact to you or you want the office to have access at your contact. Okay, so it really depends. But then again, you have the general information, the preferred information. So if they prefer one name or another, their signature, and finally their address. Okay, so this is where you would add the new contact. Okay, so I could actually add 1 if I wanted to. So it could be a buyer, and then I would call him buyer training July. All right, and then I could click save. And then if ever I wanted to go back into my transaction and add my client, my contact from there, from existing contacts, I could select the buyer training July contact that we've just created. So if you know that you're going to use Authenticine and InstanetForms a lot, I would advise you to go and put in all of your contacts right away, because that way you can add them to your transaction. But remember that if you import data from Centris, okay, like we saw at the beginning, all of the contacts that are linked to that listing will automatically be in your transaction, okay? But this is where you would add your contacts. And finally, we have the setup menu, which is where you have a lot of things going on. And I'm going to try to go through all of them quickly. So if I open up my menu here, it's the setup right here. So in the setup menu, this is where you can change everything related to the setup of InstanetForms. So first of all, you have your preferences. So you have your user information, okay, so your time zone, your email signature if you want to put one, your branding if you want to have your photo, if you want to have your company logo, okay, for your fax back cover sheet, your email banners and everything. So this is where you're going to put that information, okay, so in your preferences. So really how the basics of InstanetForms related to you. Then you have your program settings. Okay, so you have the settings for everything. So I'm not going to go through all of it with you guys because it's really up to you. It's your preferences, it's your program settings, it's how you want to use InstanetForms. Okay, so take the time to go through your settings. So you have your settings for the transaction, the documents, the checklist, the forms. You can really decide to do it as you want to, okay, because it's your tool and you need to have it the way you want, because it's really cool to like set up everything before you start using it, and sometimes it makes your life a lot more easier. All right, so this is for your program settings. Then you have your notifications. Okay, so you can decide to get an email notification for anything that happens in your InstanetForms. Okay, so it can be general, it could be for a task. So if ever you have a task that is past due, you want to receive an email telling you that you have a task that is past due, you would select here. Okay, So either a task, a transaction task, same thing for your teams, sharing, okay? Notify me when a shared transaction is created, everything. So you can decide to receive emails for all of that. So notifications for all of that. Super user, we don't really use it. So general tasks and team sharing if you want to have notifications, email notifications. Then you have the clauses. Okay, so like I said before, you see the personal clauses. If you want to create one, this is where you would create it. Okay, because we saw before that in the form you can add clauses, either personal clauses, system clauses that's already in the system, or clauses from your office. Okay, so if you want to add a clause that's really specific to you, so a personal one, once again, you click on the add button right here and you can add a new clause. And then you have the title and you have the content. So easy as that. So you can just write it down here and then save it. And then you would be able to go back into your form, select clause in the right box, and then put in your personal clause if you wanted to. Okay. So if ever for your brokerage contracts, I know that some brokers whom I'm talking to, they use simple notice now, and they want to put the simple notice clause directly in their form. So they've created themselves a personal clause telling the clients that they will use simple notice, let's say, which is a new tool if you guys don't know about it yet. And then they could add that clause at all time. Okay. So this is where you would add your personal clauses or modify the office clauses or see the system clauses. Right. So like you see in the setup menu, you have a lot of things. So I would advise you to go explore it. Type management. This is actually for the agency executive officer. Then you have your default dashboards. Okay. So here, this is the agent default dashboards. But once again, this is something that the agency executive officer does. Sorry, I have I have those access, but it's fine. If ever you want to choose your own dashboard, like I told you, you're gonna have to just go onto your dashboard, like we saw at the complete beginning, and you click on the lock icon, and then you can modify your dashboard. Then you have the transaction templates. So like I said, this is where you could create your templates, okay? Like we saw before, you can either create a template from the transaction, or you can come here in the setup menu and decide that you want to create a template. So if you click add, you're gonna, let's say you want it personal, and we're gonna call it, sorry, template training, okay? Like this. And we could say promise to purchase. And then you would have the type of what type of transaction it is if you wanted to, and you can add a description. And I'm going to click save just to show you. And see here, you have all of the information that you can put in your template. So you can decide if you want to add a checklist, okay? You can decide if you want to add contacts, what documents, the forms, and if you share it with a team, okay? And what that means is that every time, sorry, every time you have a transaction that is a residential purchase, well, you could apply that template and you would already have all of the checklists, all of the forms, and all of the documents that you want. And if you want to share it with a team, all right? So this is what you can do with the template. So you either create it from scratch here, or when you're creating a transaction and you have everything you need and you think that you're going to reuse the same type of transaction, you can create the template directly from the transaction. You have the team sharing, and the team sharing is a function that you can use to share either one transaction at a time, like we saw before, or you can decide to automatically share all new transaction files with your team. So to create a team, you click on add, and we're going to call it team training July, but of course you're gonna give it the name that you want. We're gonna click save. And so if you want to add some people in your team, keep in mind that it's only the people in your office. Okay, so it's only the other brokers of your office or your admin staff. Okay, so what you do is that you just select the people you want on your team. So let's say I'm selecting 2 of my colleagues right here because they won't mind if they receive an email. So what you do is that you select the brokers that you want in your team. You click on add members. Then what you need to do is choose the permission. Okay, so you have 3 types of permissions: either read, write, or full. Read means that the selected member, the member will only be able to view the transactions that are shared with them. They're not going to be able to modify them in any way. If you select the write option, it means that they can read everything, they can view the transaction, and they can modify it if they want to. They can modify the forms if they have to. And finally, full, it's the same thing as write, but you can also delete forms. You can delete the transaction if you want. So it's really like if it was you, like you give them full control of the transaction. So you can decide that. So you have to decide the permission. You can remove your member if you want to. You can allow impersonation. That means that that person would be able to work on my behalf, so under my name. So they would have like basically the full permission, and plus it would be under my name. So that really helps when you're on vacation and you have someone who replaces you. You can allow the impersonation. All right. And by the way, now I'm showing you how to create the team and like what to click and whatnot, but you can always come back and edit it and change the permissions if you wanted to. Okay. And finally, the last thing I want to show you is that you can automatically share the transactions. So that means that when I'm done creating this team, and I clicked on automatically share transactions, all of the new transactions that I'm going to be creating in the future will be automatically shared with my team. So if ever you decide this morning that you want to create a team, okay, and you click on automatically share transactions, all of the previous transactions that you've created will not be automatically shared with them. It's really all the new transactions that you will create that will be automatically shared. If you want me to show you again how to share a transaction that's already created, let me know, because you can do it for each transaction. You don't have to automatically share all of your transactions. All right. So it really depends on what you want to do. So if I click on save settings, it's just going to save it. There you go. So my group was updated. So if I go back into my teams sharing, see here, I have my my new team. So if I want to edit it, so if I want to go back and change the permission, let's say I could just click on the 3-dot menu, click on edit, or I can also delete it. Finally, last thing I want to show you, I know it's a lot, but it's pretty interesting. I hope you guys find it interesting. So it's the integrations. Okay, so before I was talking about Authenticine, but I know that it's not everyone who uses Authenticine. So if you want to link your EasySign or your Next One tool, this is where you're going to do it. So in the setup menu, you click on integration, and then signature setting, you click yes, I want to enable my account to use a third-party signature vendor. And then you could select either EasySign or Next One Sign. Okay, and then they will ask you for a user key. We don't provide that. It's really, you're going to have to ask either EasySign or Next One. Okay, so if ever you want to do so, that's where you do it. I would recommend that you guys use Authenticine for sure, because it's already linked in your InstanetForms if you subscribe to it. But I understand that it's not everyone who uses it. And finally, you have the document settings. So same thing. If you want to link your documents to Gimme Web or Jimmy Web, you can do so right here. So once again, you would add the user key. All right. So there you go. So these are all the things you can do in your setup menu. I know it's a lot, but it's always a good thing to just set up your tool properly, and then you're going to be good to go, and it's going to be so much more easier for you to use InstanetForms. So voila. Do you guys have any questions? You want me to go over something else again, or if you want to see something again, if you have any questions, we still have 24 minutes left. So don't be shy. I'm gonna be here to answer you. But if it's legal questions, legal matters, I would tell you to ask the OACIQ or your agency executive officer. So please feel free to ask me anything. So I have a question that tells me, how do I change the language of the board? So you mean you want to change the language of the tool? If so, if you want to have InstanetForms in French, you go completely at the bottom here on the right, and you see here it says Français. So you can click here if you want to change the language. Okay, if it was in French, you would have English right here, and this is where you change the language. So Ms. Veronica, I hope this answers your question. If not, just let me know. So please feel free to ask me anything, and you're welcome. And if ever it was super clear and you guys don't have any questions and you want to leave, that's fine too. I'm going to wish you a very, very good day, and thank you for listening. I hope this helped. I hope it was informative for you and that you've learned some new things, and yeah, you're going to be able to use the tool better as of now. But take the time to think of anything you could ask me. I'm going to stay here for a while, apart from if you don't have any questions at all. And then I'm going to wish you a very, very good day.